Here at West Bank, we're really excited to sponsor Real Success, a new CBJ series featuring Iowa City's own Nate Kaeding. 2018 marks West Bank's 125th year of helping business owners and entrepreneurs find their own versions of success, whether that be opening a new store, planning for retirement, or anything in between. Please enjoy this edition of Real Success, hosted by Nate Kaeding, and thanks for watching.
Well, Greg, we're at my favorite watering hole in Iowa City. This is quintessential Iowa City right here. You got George's, the oldest bar in Iowa City. It's even snowing outside, which is
pretty nice.
Which is even better, which is perfect. You got the perfect Iowa City meal too, is a George's steamed burger and a cold beer. So one of my favorite spots. And you grew up in Bellevue. Did you have a favorite hangout, favorite restaurant, or bar, supper club, anything over there?
Yeah.
It's a great river town. So
yeah, we had a place called the Anchor Inn when I was growing up, and it was right on the river. It was a lot like this place, actually, and they would have everything. That was the one shop in town you could go get a meal. So, yeah, we kind of had the same thing growing up.
That's great. Now you grew up football player, multi-sport athlete. Did you have a favorite sports memory when you were growing up in Bellevue? Did you go right in? Did you grow up in an athletic family?
Yeah, my dad actually played football in Iowa here at Iowa Wesleyan, and is in their Hall of Fame, and then went off to be a school teacher and became principal and then superintendent of the high school I went to. And so one of the tougher things for me for being an athlete is when you got a dad that's superintendent of schools, you kind of have to behave yourself.
And you ended up coaching your kids too, though, right?
I did, yeah. So long trained there, but ended up in Dyersville, Iowa, and coached football there for 5 years. Had a great time, really a great school, and I actually found that through an old teammate at Iowa, Mike Haight, who played ball there, and he grew up in Dyersville, and so it's kind of a neat thing, a great way to come home, great way to come back to Iowa.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Did you know all along you want to be a Hawkeye? Did you grow up a Hawkeye fan?
Oh, couldn't wait to be. Yeah. I was just like a lot of Iowa kids growing up around here. This was the place to be, right?
And you were a receiver in high school?
I was a quarterback. I played quarterback all through high school, and then Coach Fry was kind of creative at the time of just finding guys that were athletes and trying to figure something else for them to do. So he let me try kicking once.
That's about all it'll take. Yeah, you
whiffed
one and you're out. Yeah.
Well, I didn't even hit it. I mean, I just whiffed and fell. I did the Charlie Brown. So. So he tried me around, and I was pretty fast. I ran track and that kind of thing in college and high school, and so he stuck me out at receiver, and that seemed to stick, and it was a lot of fun. I had a great time. But,
Coach Fry's obviously famous for his coaching tree, right? There's that famous picture of Barry Alvarez and Bobby Stoops and Kirk Ferentz and everybody. What do you think it was specifically about Coach Fry where he was able to incubate and grow and mentor all the other coaches underneath his staff? And now, I mean, you've had multiple positions at Fortune 500 companies here locally now with MetaCommunications as a CEO. I mean, what did you take from Coach Fry and how he, that upper level management, and how he was able to kind of teach them and incubate them and use, and that was the catalyst for their career growth as they went forward?
Yeah, so if back when I graduated from college and started working, when I was with Procter & Gamble coming out of school here, one of the things they always taught us was, how do you fix your deficits, right? Those things that you aren't good at. So they had all these tests we would take about, how we worked with customers and what we did from a marketing perspective and how we thought about things. And those things that you weren't good at, they would focus on. And what I learned from Coach Fry is he did a great job of taking the best out of whoever he found, right? And if it was a quarterback that could scramble, he'd use them for that. When I was a freshman here, we had 3 quarterbacks that played, and we went to the Rose Bowl that year, and that was unheard of to have more than one quarterback in the lineup, right? And I remember seeing times, because he and Coach Snyder kind of lived together when Coach Snyder was the offensive coordinator here, and now at Kansas State. But he and Bill would always be engaged in some kind of dialogue. But what I always noticed with Coach Fry was he would ask the question. He wouldn't tell Bill what to do. He wouldn't tell any of his other coaches what to do. He would ask the question. And even when I was communicating and having conversations with him about different things he always asked me. He didn't truth is, he probably had a better answer than any of us had, right? But he didn't force his answer, his thought process on you. And so I kind of use that in my business career to say, I'm not looking for what people have as their weakness. I try to find what their real strength is and then leverage the heck out of it. And the reason that I think the coaches that he had in that coaching tree did so well is he found a way to give them a chance to take what they were really good at,
grow it,
and make it big, right? And if you look at Bobby Stoops, Bobby and Bill Snyder are 180-degree opposites, right? In the way that they would probably approach a game plan. But both of them are really successful guys, right? And you look at Coach Alvarez and what he's done now, not only coaching, but the AD at Wisconsin and the legend that he is in Wisconsin when you drive across that border now, right? And he did it way different than anybody else would have. And I think that's finding people's strengths and really making the most of it. That's a really big thing to do. And that wasn't popular back in those days, but Hayden was a pioneer. He did things a lot different than anybody else did, from the cowboy hats and the boots to the sunglasses to all the little fun stories we could tell, right?
And he obviously had a really good eye for talent, both in recruiting his players and these coaches, even to get them in the building. I mean, when you're trying to recruit talent to come work for you at MetaCommunications, I mean, what are some of the non-technical attributes that you look for above all others when you're trying to find someone to come work for you?
Well, much like you, I think, when you were an athlete, and we actually call the team we have over there, we call them team members. We don't call them employees. We don't call them head count. I hate that word. Right? But in all the dialogue we have, it's always about the team members and what we can do for them. And we try to find folks that want to work together. And then we try to find people that have a unique skill set that they can bring to the party. And it's that simple, right?
Yeah. What are the biggest challenges for putting together a team now, in the 2017, 21st century workplace? What are some of the biggest challenges of getting all those different diverse role players to work together well?
Well, and that's the one thing I will say is you get younger people and older people, and I'm now the old guy, right? I'm sort of the gray hair of the group. And as you get that mix, what's interesting is how they do their work and what they want to do to get things done. And so, 5 years ago, I'd have never heard anything about Quip or 15 or 16 different apps that we're using today, and then
the inter-office communication, Slack.
And these guys are doing all kinds of cool things that they use as tools to communicate, where my method was just walk down the hallway, say, hey, can we sit down for a few minutes and talk about this? And their comfort level in those alternative forms of communication, more modern forms of communication, is much higher. And so it gives them a chance to really think through their answers, think about what they want to say before they have to go do it. And so we're learning to flex our style. They're learning to talk with me. And I'm learning to Slack them, right? And so
you're constantly learning along with them,
and
keeping up with the new style.
And it helps us too when we go to meet with customers, right? Because all of our customers in the new world are going through that same kind of transformation, right? Everybody's got a different style and approach to communication, and if that's what we're going to do, right? That's our company's niche, then we got to be really good at that.
I'll read through a few of these, but I find it fascinating the different industries that you've been able to touch through your career. I mean, you were the brand manager for Scope and Crest for P&G, like you mentioned, general manager for Rayovac, the battery company, VP at Coca-Cola, CCO of Levi Strauss. I mean, those are pretty iconic consumer products, right? I mean, that's pretty cool stuff. As you transitioned from industry to industry, what were the sort of common threads for you as you made your professional journey?
So I would say this: the thing for me has always been, it's really, when it gets down to it, it's about leadership. And it's about finding what makes whatever the product is or service that company provides, how do you make it the best there is, right? And how do you ask the right questions? And so go back to our little bit about the Hayden Fry conversation, right? How do you take something that's really iconic like Coca-Cola or Levi Strauss and make that even better? And who do you talk to? How do you ask the questions? How do you get the best out of people that are working there, and have them then get the best out of the performance of the company, right? And so that's been a common thread, and then the rest of it's all the same, right? A business is a business is a business, whether it's George's Bar or it's MetaCommunications. when we all kind of do the same thing, right? We have to service customers, we have to take good care of them, you got to have to have a great product, right?
Yeah.
And if you understand that and you can get into the details enough about that business to understand it, then all the rest of it's the same.
Right. And that, I mean, I find it real impressive that you made that conscious decision to dedicate that, more time and energy and assets of your personal life back into your personal life and your kids and your family, and make that decision to move back to Iowa. How do you, as a high-powered executive and a lot of responsibility on the business side, how have you managed that sort of work-life balance? I know when I was playing in the NFL, it was always it was less about managing it and more about managing the guilt that can kind of come along with it, right? I mean, you go to training camp for 45 days and you got a new baby at home, and your wife's with one kid, then it's 2 and 3, and there's nothing you can do about it because you're out on the road and you have professional responsibilities and you feel guilty about it. So it's more about kind of internally managing it when you can. But I mean, I find it impressive that you made that decision to move back here and actively kind of invest those assets back into your assets back into your personal life.
Yeah, and so all those things you just talked about, I went through, right?
Yeah.
Living in San Francisco and Atlanta, there were so many of my kids' events I missed when they were little, and things you would want to be at that you didn't get a chance to be part of. And so coming back here gave me the chance to do that. And I really did. I had a friend of mine one night say, what do you want your tombstone to say someday?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure I want to take up space to have a tombstone. They just may throw some of my pixie dust somewhere. But the point being, what do you want your life to have stood for? And for me, when I really thought about it, was how do you make a difference in people's lives? How do you make things better for other people? And so through my business career, I've always tried to help folks have a chance to grow and be successful. We've had a lot of folks, not nearly to Hayden Fry's capability, but I've got a lot of friends out there that used to work in groups, that companies I was responsible for, right, or businesses that are
gone off to do
presidents and CEOs.
That's pretty rewarding
Of their own
itself.
companies, right? And they're doing really well. And so you like to see that. And coming back here to coach, one of my goals was there hadn't been anybody really recruited out of Dyersville except for 2 or 3 kids in 15 years. And so I wanted to see those kids have a chance to get a college scholarship. And if it was football, great. If it wasn't, maybe it was for academics, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that was, I wanted to give those kids a chance to do more than they might have had the chance to do if I hadn't been there. And same thing goes here. I kept trying to find something in Iowa business-wise because I thought it would just make sense.
Yeah.
And Dean Price over at
McGladrey. Yeah, McGladrey, yeah.
One day we were talking and I said, hey, Dean, he does my taxes. And I said, Dean, just keep your eyes open. And he goes, well, you ought to go talk to these guys over at MetaCommunications. And I said, about what? He says, well, they may be looking for a board member. So anyway, the founder had recently left a couple months earlier, and they were, as you go through, if a founder leaves, you're trying to figure out what does next look like for us. And so I met with a couple of board members, and they seemed like great people. They're Iowa folks, and I thought, if I can help that would be awesome, right? So I came on the board, and then had a chance later as some things just kind of fell into place to be able to become the CEO and try to lead the business. And we've brought in some just phenomenal talent. I mean, and they're all Iowa folks, right?
Build
For the most
team.
part,
Yeah,
And so, we've got Vanessa McDonald's from Accenture, and but an Iowa person. Her mom and dad run the optical store up the street, and you got Patrick Tierney, who's our CFO. Who's, I've worked with a lot of CFOs, and I'll tell you, he's one of the best I've ever worked with. And Ali Ahmad, who's an Iowa grad engineering guy that was already at Meta, but we've promoted up. And you keep going, Noreen Thurston, and I can keep going down the list, right? We've just got a whole bunch of folks there that are really talented people that are Iowa folks that really want to see this thing be successful, right? And want to make Iowa proud and make Iowa City proud.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Nate. Appreciate you letting me come in and talk with you.
We're out. It was awesome.
Is that
Appreciate
right?
it. Yeah, that's perfect.